Okay, let's get this started. Hey guys, Chris here. Welcome to this very special video celebrating the channel reaching 30,000 subscribers. To commemorate... Anyway, to commemorate this event, I asked you to send me some questions. Tough. Hey guys, Chris here. Welcome to this very special video celebrating the channel reaching 30,000 subscribers. This is quite crazy. I was never expecting that to happen when I started the channel. So thank you for subscribing. To celebrate, I asked you to send me some questions, and you certainly did, and I'll try to go through them all. So what I did is split these questions into 4 main categories, and yeah, let's get things rolling. So Badzad31 (parenthesis Davin) at Badzad312 asks, how are you today? Davin, I'm pretty good. I am very tired because I'm working very much, and this is a Saturday, so I'm kind of taking some of my off time to do this, but still I'm excited to do the video, and I'm doing pretty okay in general, and I hope you're doing okay too. Thanks for asking. Khaled Terzaki asks, I'm new to your channel, so can you make an introduction? Also, can you tell us about your beginnings, how you entered this field, and what were your milestones? Yes, that's a great question. So I started this channel because I wanted to share my music in the best way possible. I wanted to avoid unauthorized uploads, not because of the money. I don't make any money from YouTube, but I certainly don't want other people making money off my music, but the most important thing was to present high fidelity uploads, properly tagged, have all the names correctly and all that stuff. Down the road, I got a little bit of traction. A few people have heard of my music and they started coming to the channel, and we started interacting in the comments and stuff, and that was very exciting. And it's also one of the main reasons why I maintain this channel now, because I get this interaction with people, which I love. And if you have left a comment on the channel, you know that most of the times I do take the time to reply or like or, you know, react to it. The other thing, I started doing these tutorial videos or talking about the music or these album commentaries and stuff, which to me it was an additional way to communicate my music to you guys. And this is probably what I'm gonna keep doing. I'm just gonna keep uploading my music, and I'm gonna do the occasional behind the scenes stuff. Milestones, I don't have any. I wasn't expecting to get to 30,000 subscribers. It's a channel that is not updated constantly. So it's just people that listen to the music that eventually subscribe. I don't have any plans to, you know, reach 100,000 subscribers or what. I don't care. I don't want this to become one of those channels that, you know, I tell you, leave stuff in the comments and like and subscribe and all that because, you know, I wanted to trend on Twitter or anything or get more, beat the algorithm. I just want people to have meaningful conversations. That's all I want. Okay, so Derpo the Magnificent at Them Derps asks, are there any more breakdowns in the works for Risk of Rain 2? Would you ever consider doing breakdowns of any of your tracks from Deadbolt? When I have the time, I like doing the breakdowns, and yes, I want to do more breakdowns for Risk of Rain 2, but I don't have them planned, and I would definitely love to do breakdowns for Deadbolt, so I guess leave a comment, which piece from Deadbolt would you want to see, and maybe I'll prioritize it. Trombone EJF67 asks, what was your first ever video game project you worked on, finished or unfinished? Well, Trombone, my first project was The Sea Will Claim Everything. It's an adventure game with hand-drawn graphics and a beautiful story written by Jonas Kiradzis, which I have collaborated with on other occasions too. You can find the music here on the channel if you go in the videos and search the playlist. The album is there. You can also find it everywhere on Spotify, Bandcamp, and all the places. I'm particularly proud of this collaboration. It's a beautiful project. I love the music. It's very different from the Risk of Rain stuff. It's kind of chamber music, if you will, with acoustic instruments small to medium ensembles. I still say that there are some of my greatest music written for that project. So yeah, that was it. Athanasios Karasimos at Game Linguist asks, ask us how we feel to have a talented friend as a music composer in the gaming industry. Thanasi, you claim to be a linguist. I would say take a good hard look at that sentence and try harder next time. Thank you. Kilixion asks, why is your music so good? Reveal of why my music is so good at 50,000 subs. Mean333 or Meanie333 asks, do you listen to heavy metal? If yes, what sort of? If no, why? Well, Mean333, have you listened to my music? Yes, I do listen to heavy metal. I particularly prefer prog metal stuff, but I occasionally listen to whatever. I'm more of a classic guy. I hate new metal, I hate everything about it. I don't really like gent and all that modern stuff. It's kind of boring, feels repetitive and not very artistic to me. I prefer like the old school stuff up to the prog scene. Evil Genius 42 asks, favorite type of precipitation? Well, Evil Genius 42, I read your question on the video, I hope you're happy. Jag, which I know stands for Just a Gamer, asks, in your opinion, well, that's the only one you're gonna get, do you work better solo or in a team? I remember that you've got very fond memories of creating the Deadbolt OST together with friends, and Gospels, he's referring to Gospels of the Flood, a podcast we did recently, is also a collective effort that you're proud of. Would you have also worked on the Risk of Rain 2 OST in a team in retrospect? Here's the thing. When I started Risk of Rain 2, I very deliberately decided to do this as a solo project, and that's because I wanted to sort of recreate the feeling and workflow and conditions of working on Risk of Rain 1, which is a very isolated project for me. And it's also because this music that I'm writing for Risk of Rain 2 and all the Risk of Rain games is very personal. If I was to do a solo album, it would be very close to Risk of Rain 1 and 2. So in that sense, I preferred to approach it like that. Now that said, and this is kind of a spoiler for questions coming later, for the DLC, I am going to do some collaborations, but it's not in a compositional level or production level like we did for Deadbolt, for example. But yeah, I'm doing some collaboration, which means I'm bringing some instruments here in the studio, recording some stuff, but that's the extent to these collaborations go. It's still, you know, my music, my compositions, and my creative choices. And I wouldn't do it any other way for Risk of Rain, but I do love collaborating, and yeah, I will definitely do it again in the future or upcoming projects. Sid Gooding asks, in terms of naming your tracks, are there any that you're particularly fond of or have any cool anecdotes behind them? Here's the thing, you know that I make proper effort naming my tracks. I don't leave it to chance, I don't use generic terms like main theme or boss fights or whatever. I don't like that. I think that the title is a very important part of the artistic whole that is a musical composition, so I like to have that be something. Now, sometimes I just do deep dives on Wikipedia. For example, Risk of Rain 1 and 2, there are a lot of such examples where I just start from a term like water or rain and just browse Wikipedia and go from one term to the other to keep it kind of within the same topic and find, you know, interesting words that feel evocative or sound good or mean something that is interesting. Sometimes I will pull from other sources, for example, literary sources or movies or things like that. If I was to cite an anecdote, there has been a lot of talk about my track called A Glacier Eventually Farts, parenthesis, and don't you listen to the Song of Life. This goes back to a very weird speech slash declaration, as he calls it, that Werner Herzog did once. It's called the Minnesota Declaration, in which he cites some conditions or values or whatever you want to call them It has the subtitle Truth in Cinema. I don't remember. You can read it right here, right now. And one of these clauses that he cites, I think it's number 11.
10. The moon is dull. Mother Nature doesn't call, doesn't speak to you, although a glacier eventually farts. And don't you listen to the song of life.
I love Werner Herzog. I love his movies. I have referenced him before. In Deadbolt, I had a track called Werner und Klaus. And I just thought that this is a great title for an album in which all the titles are related with water and you know, water phenomena and weather phenomena and all that stuff. I love that Werner Herzog has this kind of humor where I don't think he even realizes that he's making a joke. This goes as far into the ridiculousness as you can get. Dario Rodriguez asks, what is the rain formerly known as purple currently known as? Well, the rain formerly known as purple, I think, is now the cloud formerly known as purple, because, you know, the rain kind of falls in the ground and then kind of evaporates, goes back, and then turns to a cloud and then comes into rain again. And I think that's the cycle. So I think if my calculations are correct, we're currently in this cycle at the cloud stage. Out of all songs or tracks, thank you for that, by the way, you have made or been featured in, which is none, which is your favorite title? One of my favorite titles is The Raindrop That Fell to the Sky, because it's a very evocative, very impressionistic title. A raindrop usually falls downwards, obviously. So I thought that, you know, something really, really weird and really fantastical needs to have happened for a raindrop to travel upwards. So this is why I use the title. I also really like Con Lentitud Poderosa, because I just think this is a very interesting idea to have a title that makes a hidden reference to both rain and also a very beautiful passage from a short story by Jorge Luis Borges. I was reading the story and came upon this sentence, and I loved it so much. Me? What? I didn't ask me a question. Oh, it's Slim Fim asks, do you have any unreleased songs? You know, I do have some unreleased tracks, not songs, because I worked on a project that was called Blubberbusters that failed to achieve its goal on Kickstarter twice, and I had written quite a bit of music for it, and now this music just sits on my hard drive. I might do something with it eventually, I don't know, might include it in a compilation of unreleased stuff when I have enough. I don't know, yeah, maybe. Okay, I have a group of questions here because they're about the same topic. Why is Lux Perpetua from Deadbolt not on the LP? Does not fit? Well, yes, it does not fit. It's also because it's a kind of a bonus track that is a collage that I did from pieces of music from the entire soundtrack. It was never meant to be on the LP, it's never even meant to be widely accessible. Initially I thought it would just be a Bandcamp exclusive, and I think it still is a Bandcamp exclusive, I'm not sure. Did I upload it on Spotify? We'll see here if I upload it. That was As B that asked the question. And then Walkman Matthew asks, where the hell is Deadbolt 2? And Donieko Maxim asks, Deadbolt 2 soundtrack when? Well, I have good news for you guys. Deadbolt 2 and the Deadbolt 2 soundtrack is coming in exactly 2 weeks. It's a Christmas bonus that we're sending to you guys. Both Hope and I decided you've been asking for this for way too long, so we took a couple of months off to just come up with the game. It's gonna be full 3D, it's also playable on VR. It's going to be kind of a short experience, about 15 hours. It's coming, it's gonna be great. You can wishlist it right now on Steam, and if not now, then when? Hello, I am Ann Sock. Ann Sock? You need to check your grammar. Asks, have you played Nier Automata, mostly due to that game having an incredible soundtrack? I have not played Nier Automata because I don't really have time to play games, and when I do, I'm really selective. And as far as the second part of your question, Aris Karetsos asks, any chance of live or online performances? Καλή σου μέρα. Kalimera Ari? Not a fat chance, I'm afraid. It is a Yoshi asks, do you have any regrets? Ooh. Way to bring the whole thing down. Tracks that you... Oh, okay, about my music. Tracks you've made that you aren't or are no longer happy with, and what would you change about them? Well, I have many regrets in general in life, but as far as tracks that I've written, here's the deal. I have a few tracks that I would actually go and change, but I don't want to now because they're published and it doesn't matter anymore. I've learned a lesson, and I'm gonna apply it to the next tracks that I'm gonna do. I have many tracks that I would like to do better mixes of, which I might do at some point, especially from The Sea Will Claim Everything, Risk of Rain 1, Deadbolt. I would like to go and, you know, touch it up a little bit. But I have very few tracks that I would actually scrap. But I don't mind that they are out there. I'm not gonna tell you which ones they are, because often I see that a lot of people like tracks that I really don't like, but you know, whatever. Sale asks, how would you define your sound, style, genre of music? I would not, but you're welcome to do it yourself. The Magman asks, what other projects have you worked on besides Risk of Rain? Well, you can actually just go on my Spotify or here on YouTube and go to my playlist and see all the projects that I've done. To name a few, as I said, The Sea Will Claim Everything, Gospels of the Flood, Deadbolt. I did a film a few years ago, it's called Do It Yourself. I did a bunch of short films back in the day. I did production for an EP of my friend. I don't know, I'm just, you know, I'm not prolific. I don't write music like all the time and, you know, non-stop or anything, but I've done a few things. You can find them. Come on, you can find. Isaiah Honor at Lurgipai asks, I recently started listening to Gospels of the Flood. Thank you. And I have been really enjoying it. Oh, thank you. What other smaller projects outside working with Hopu have you worked on that you're really proud of? I did Gospels of the Flood, as Isaiah mentions. This is one of the projects that I'm really proud of, because this is something that Jonas Kiradzis has written. He came to me with the project and I did the sound design and the music. This is a project that is very dear to me because it speaks about stuff that I really care about, and I would urge you all to listen to that. Other stuff, a small game that was called back in the day Droidscape Basilica, and you can find the soundtrack here on my channel. It's called Hexadecimal. And why is that? That's a weird story, doesn't matter. The interesting thing about this album, Hexadecimal, is that this is what Hopu found on SoundCloud and decided to approach me. So it's kind of adjacent to Risk of Rain in a sense, in this historical sense, so you can go listen to it. It sounds really bad, it's very badly mixed, but it's still, I think, some good music in there. Geronimo Belicoso asks, what do you think is the project you got most invested in? That's a difficult question, because at the time that I'm working on a project, I'm really deep into it. I have to say that, as I said, Gospels is a project that is very dear to me because it's a collaboration with a person I love and is my friend. But Risk of Rain 2 is such a vast project to me because it took 3+ years and I'm still now again writing for it. It has been the most successful thing that I've done, so it has returned a lot of the effort back to me. It's hard to define investment, you know, as far as how much I believe in the project and I consider it personal. I would say Gospel is the top thing that I've done, but both of them are at the top of the podium, because if I was to write a solo album, it would probably be very, very close to Risk of Rain 2, so it's hard to quantify. Sinistro asks, do you think that you can create another music in the same fame level as Coalescence? Well, to be honest, it's not up to me, it's up to you. If you decide you love another piece of music to the same degree that you love Coalescence, then maybe, I don't know. Here's the thing about this question. I don't care, I don't try. It's not something that I think about, because I can't just sit down and recreate Coalescence. It's not something that I can consciously do. If you ask me, I've written better music than Coalescence. But it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what you enjoy, and Coalescence has obviously clicked, so I don't know, time will tell. LL asks, everybody's being so serious, let me try something different. Marry or kill Emma Watson, Angelina Jolie, Beyoncé. Well, okay, let's start with the harsh one. I would kill Emma Watson, and the reason I would choose Emma Watson is because I feel she's contributed so much to humanity, and now she's at her peak. She's an established actor, done some like activism work and stuff. She's very beautiful, definitely. So if I would kill her now, I would kind of make her a legend, you know, kind of like a John Lennon situation. I definitely would not marry Beyoncé, and the reason is that she's married to Jay-Z, and I don't want to get in legal trouble with Jay-Z. I think he would probably be able to hire better lawyers than I. So I would definitely Beyoncé. And then I would marry Angelina Jolie. I mean, she sounds like a lovely person. Electrum55, he asks, what's the deal with airline food? I know, right? It's like everywhere I travel, tiny life, single serving sugar, single serving cream, single serving butter, the microwave Gordon Blue hobby kit? What's up with that? Varenvel Darakus asks, ask you anything? Can I buy you a pizza? Well, Varenvel Darakus, in fact you can buy me a pizza in a kind of roundabout way if you go to my Bandcamp and buy one of my albums. And then I promise you I will take these €5 and buy myself a pizza. So thanks. And then Blade3 asks, un peu au orage? To which I reply categorically, orage. Going Sabanksa S asks, will there be a Risk of Rain 1 remake? No. Yes. Okay, so we now come to the second part of the video, which I reply to your question specifically about Risk of Rain 2. Okay, Blizzardo asks, maybe a bit bold, but how exactly did you meet Hopu? How dare you? Maybe a bit bold? How dare you ask this question of me? Are you serious right now? I'm making this video and you come and ask me this question? Maybe a bit bold? Yes, it's a bit bold. Fuck. Anyway, let's move on. Mr. Hat.tf asks, how did you and Hopu meet? Well, Hopu sent me an email asking me if I'd be interested in working on Risk of Rain 1. We had some back and forth, and the rest is history. Just met right then and there. And that was back in 2013. Actual Oatmeal asks, how did you end up working on the Risk of Rain soundtrack? Well, Hopu just sent me an email, and they asked me if I would be interested in working in Risk of Rain 1. We had some back and forth, and we just ended up making the game, and that the rest is history, I guess. And then Raiden Lucio asks, how did you find yourself with Hopu Games? It was back in 2013, and Hopu sent me an email, and they asked me if I'd be interested in scoring a game that was called Risk of Rain 1. Well, not one at the time, just Risk of Rain. And we had some back and forth. And in fact, something interesting about that is that initially they thought that they would get a few composers and each of them will write, you know, a couple of tracks and they would have this compendium of tracks. And me, in my kind of naive boldness or something, I told them I'm totally interested in writing for the game, but I think it would be better if I wrote all the music, because then we're gonna have a kind of a uniform sound, not have, you know, different levels of composition, different mixing styles and all that stuff, and will benefit the game. And a little bit of time passed, and I think at some point I asked them, like I sent a follow-up and said, hey guys, no pressure, but is there any update on Risk of Rain? Because I have a few other offers and I wanna, you know, arrange my schedule. Of course, I didn't have any offers, that was bullshit. Anyway, but eventually they said, yeah, we're thinking about it, we'll get back to you. And then a few days later, they actually told me, let's do it. And we did it, and the rest is history. And that's the story of me meeting Hopu and writing Risk of Rain 1. So, Jared Fuentes asks, do you play Risk of Rain? If yes, which character do you prefer? Both games. How often do you play? Well, Jared, I don't play. Χαιρετίσματα από την Ελλάδα. So Possumbull, at Possumbull, asks, where did the ukulele come from as such an iconic thing, especially in the Risk of Rain 2 soundtracks? And then Mr. Vauxes asks, for the uninitiated, where did "and his music was electric" came from? And then Ando Hadi asks, who is he and why is his music electric? I've grouped these questions because they're about the same topic, more or less. So the ukulele, I didn't know the origin of it, so I decided to ask Hopu and give me the scoop behind it, and they did. And here's the whole story about the ukulele. So in the beginning, they thought of doing this kind of really special item that they would do. We're going to do like, you know, go down to having a set of bongos and you know, like. And that's the story of the ukulele and the electricity behind it. So, Sigma Ruyen asks, what pushed you to compose for Risk of Rain 2 and the original Risk of Rain soundtrack? How much did this affect your style going forward compared to before? Nothing pushed me per se, except for the requirement to eat, which is to say that the first Risk of Rain was literally a gig. I didn't know anything about the project. It was one game that offered me a job. Of course, in Risk of Rain 2 it was a whole different story. I had worked with Hopu again on Deadpool and we have more familiarity, we work together nicely, so it was not much of a, you know, choice. It just told me, here's the next thing we're doing, and I was like, yeah, great, I'm on board. How much did it affect my style? I wouldn't say that it has affected my style. I don't know what my style is. I'm classically trained, so I kind of write orchestral music or ensemble music or stuff, but I also listen to a lot of rock, jazz, electronic, whatever. As I said, Risk of Rain 1 and 2 are albums that if I was to do a solo album would be very close to those, so they are sort of my style in a sense. We did have some conscious decisions as far as the transition from Risk of Rain 1 to Risk of Rain 2 goes. We went a little bit backwards, so instead of sticking with like the mid-80s to 90s or early 2000s styles of music that are incorporated in Risk of Rain 1 in a very wide sense now and interpreted by me in my own sensibilities. But consciously for Risk of Rain 2 we went from, I don't know, the 80s and back to the 70s essentially. I don't know if this answers your question, but I'm not sure I even understand exactly what you're asking, so... Lucky LMJ asks, are you gonna make any music for Risk of Rain 2's Void DLC? And then Dolphund1975 asks, are you doing the music for the Risk of Rain 2 DLC? If so, how? And are you already working or finished a few pieces? How would you describe them and how they compare to your previous RR pieces? And if you kept the same theme for the DLC. To both of your questions, yes, I'm writing music for the Risk of Rain 2 DLC. Yes, I have a lot of finished or semi-finished tracks. It's not going to be a huge album like Risk of Rain 2. It's not going to be 2 hours of music. If I kept the same theme, well, the Risk of Rain theme is always lurking in the compositions. I'm not necessarily gonna say if there's a new theme for the Void DLC. I would say it's kind of a continuation of the previous music in a sense. Petricor5 asks, cool name by the way, Petricor5. How many new songs will be included in the Risk of Rain expansion? Also, will the expansion tracks get a vinyl release of their own? And then Anonymous Goat asks, can you give us some teasers for the upcoming Risk of Rain 2 DLC new music? How many songs? I think it's going to be 8. There is a vinyl coming, we're already working on it. We have a great mock-up for the cover art. We are hoping that it will be released simultaneously with the game. And about teasers, well, I've given plenty of teasers. If you follow me on Instagram, I have highlighted several stories which tease music from the new game, and there are other places which I have teased the music if you have been paying attention. Then Zooch asks, I have a question relating to Risk of Rain 2. I know, that's why I grouped it in the Risk of Rain 2 category. So the main game has a soundtrack led by a synth or synths, I'm not sure what you mean here. But will the Void DLC have a separate leading instrument to make it more moody or atmospheric? No, a new lead instrument, I wouldn't say that. If it's going to be more atmospheric or moody, in some sense, yes, but not exactly as you're expecting. I can't talk about this because I would reveal stuff about the gameplay. I can't really reply without giving too much away about what's coming, but I'm gonna say this. The soundtrack is not gonna be a separate entity. It will be kind of a continuation, something that's adjacent to the original soundtrack. You're not gonna listen to it and say, wow, this is such a new thing, or so. It's a natural continuation of the music. In that sense, it's going to be kind of synthy and guitar-y, the same balance that the main soundtrack has. And then Lucas Watts asked, will there be more of that awesome flute from Nocturnal Emission in the new soundtrack? That's an interesting question. I haven't finalized the track, so there's always time to do it. By the way, here's that flute that I used to record Nocturnal Emission, and this is kind of a flute that has been in my house for years. I remember it since I was a boy. I don't know where it came from. I'm assuming my parents got it from somewhere. I think it's most likely a touristy thing. I'm not sure. It's not very good. It's not a good flute by any means. But I didn't need a good flute. I use it for sound effects. So I did like overblow stuff and like stuff like that is what I did for the soundtrack. I recorded a bunch of samples like that and kind of manipulated and dragged them in there. There's a reason why I use the flute, and it has to do with Azathoth, of all things. So you can look into that if you want. Then Hyphiro or Hyphiro, Hip Hero, I don't know. Is the soundtrack for the Risk of Rain 2 DLC banging? It remains to be seen.